I'm going to break down 5 essential moves that will help you reclaim and maintain your ability to hike well into your 50s and 60s and beyond. For 13 years now, I've been making videos on this topic to enable people to get back out into the mountains, and this video is no different. I'm impressed by anyone over the age of 50 who can get out into the mountains, keep up with people half their age, and still wake up the next day and do it again. For whatever reason, many people's bodies start to break down in their 30s and 40s, and by the time they reach retirement age, when they've actually got the free time to go out and enjoy nature, they've found that they've completely lost their ability to enjoy the freedom of the hills without their physical ability holding them back. But the sad thing is they chalk it up to old age and hang up their hiking boots forever. In a lot of cases that doesn't need to happen, and I don't want that to happen to anyone. But this is not about focusing on your symptoms and relying on stretching and foam rolling to help you dial down the pain just to get through the day. It's a movement approach that involves the whole body and mind. The drills I'm sharing with you require focused attention and a mind-body connection, the development of which I believe is key to maintaining your ability to hike for as long as you like. So I'm going to take you through these 5 drills, and if you would like them laid out in a clear fashion where you can access them easily later, you can join our school where I've laid out a 7-day challenge. More on that later, but let's get into the first movement. So this is the floating heel towel curl. This one is going to wake up your foot and bring these small but important muscles back online. We need a towel and we need a slidable surface underneath. And all we're going to do is elevate the heel, and we're going to grip the towel with the toes for a minute. We're just going to accumulate a lot of reps here. The knee is bent, the heel is floating, and we're just going to grip and pull the toes in. So we're going to go for a minute. The reps are pretty fast. We're going to keep quite a lot of weight in the front foot. We don't want too much weight in the back foot. The more that you kind of lean forward onto the front foot, the more intense it will be. You won't feel much if you're back here and doing it. So 1 minute on each side. Float the heel. Grip the towel, pull in with the toes. You will feel a lot of activity throughout the whole foot. And when we go on to do some of the other single leg balance exercises and the movement exercises, you're going to have an awakened foot. The foot is far more than just a base for standing. It's a dynamic structure. When a foot moves well, it supports, propels, and protects the entire kinetic chain. And a lot of people who experience knee, hip, and back pain are also dealing with feet that are completely disengaged and not coordinating well with the rest of their body. So in all of the drills I'm sharing with you here, keep in mind these are designed to help you enhance coordination from the foot to the hip. And a great starting point is to wake up the feet, and particularly the plantar fascia and the intrinsic muscles of the foot, so that they're ready to benefit from the other drills in this routine. So our second drill is the single leg swing. This drill is going to help you coordinate movement from the feet all the way up to the top of your spine. And at the same time, we're going to be working on the stability and strength of the foot, freeing up range of motion in the hip as well. Here's exactly how to do it. So you've probably done this movement in some kind of warm-up, but you've probably never done it for a decent amount of time. You can use support, you can use a trekking pole, broomstick, wall if you like, but really the best thing is to be very solid through that foot and actually use the challenge to strengthen the foot and the hip and the foot to hip connection. So it might feel a little difficult to get the arm synchronizing at first. This is such a good coordination movement, especially when it's done for 60 to 90 seconds, maybe even up to 120 seconds. When you spend some time here, you'll really start to get a foot to hip connection, and you'll start to get that glute working. Now, if you find that you are constantly rolling off onto the outside of the foot or the inside of the foot, the best thing there is to have a little bit of support under that area. Remember our 3 points of contact in the tripod? If you're losing one of them, you can use a sock or a wedge underneath that point to really feel your 3 points of contact. That's going to make you more stable. It's going to make the exercise more effective because you won't be falling over and losing your balance all the time. Put that wedge under the point of the tripod that you keep losing, and you'll find that you'll immediately be more stable. But over time, we want to phase that out just a little bit at a time to help your foot find and use that tripod point that you're missing or losing frequently. If you don't have a wedge yet, you can simply just use a sock. Place that under the point that you're typically losing, and you'll immediately feel more balanced. You should start to feel a lot of this hip and this glute on that stance leg stabilizing you and keeping you in this position. So there's a good reason why you've seen this drill done as a warm-up for all kinds of athletic situations. It's very simple, but a lot of people are really going to struggle with it. And if you do find it difficult to do smoothly, that is showing a huge opportunity to improve your hiking. Most hiking related pain, whether it's in your knees on the descent, tight hips on long hikes, or that nagging spot in your lower back, is completely reversible, but only if you stop chasing short-term fixes and start looking at the whole body for what it is, which is one coordinated unit that is largely governed by the brain and the central nervous system. If you want to stop chasing pain and start relearning to move your whole body with ease and efficiency without wasting time doing the guesswork to figure out what movements your body needs to feel better, book yourself in for an assessment with one of our team and we will start to help you through that process. We deliver personalized programs specifically tailored to your needs based on what we see in our first 5 major assessments. Within a few days, you can have a program tailored to you that grows and progresses as you improve. Hit the first link in the description to get started. So our next movement is foot clocks. Now that we've woken up the muscles in the foot, we've practiced swinging our leg and our hip in a relaxed and fluid way, just like we do when we hike. We're going to start carefully moving the whole body on top of the foot, reaching in 3 dimensions to really challenge the stability and enhance the movement capability that is within the bones of the foot. And on top of that, this movement teaches you to tune into the 3 points of the foot that form the foot tripod, that create the 3 arches of the foot, and each of which play a unique role in shock absorption, stability, and energy transfer, meaning this is where your power comes from. And foot clocks is one of the best drills for training all 3 of these arches to move, stabilize, and shift load. We're going to be balancing on one leg. We're going to start with a straight knee on the stance leg, and we're going to bend that knee and reach forward to 12 o'clock. Then we're going to go back to a straight knee and back to center. So we've gone to 12, then we bend the knee and go to 1, straighten the knee, back to center. Bend the knee, go to 2, straighten the knee, back to center. And we go all of the way around the clock to 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then all the way back through the clock points. Our next movement is high knee reverse lunges, and this adds a hint of traditional strength in the form of a lunge, but also adds a balance and coordination element that I see a lot of older hikers in particular are missing. I've worked with people who are incredibly strong in squats and deadlifts, but when I ask them to do any kind of lunge or split squat, it's all knee, and they're finding a way to do the movement without really using their hips and using their glutes to extend the hip, meaning their knees doing all the work and their hips are kind of not really involved in it. And I think this drill, combined with a couple of other movements in our school, will help you to be more hip dominant rather than knee dominant. If your feet and hips don't stabilize well, then your knees and lower back are pretty much always going to be taking the hit. So unless you're training careful and thoughtful loading of the hip, you're just shifting the problem around. And every time you go downhill or perform any kind of dynamic movement, you're going to feel that same overloading creep back in, whether it's in your back, or your knee, or in your foot. So you're going to start fixing that with the high knee reverse lunge. We use this movement to teach internal rotation of the hip to find a really good glute contraction at the bottom of the position and use that glute contraction to come up into the top position. So we're starting on a single leg balance, in this case right knee up, left elbow forward, and then we transition back into a reverse lunge. We find our left glute here to drive us up, to extend the hip, to drive the hips forward, and then we're lifting that knee up. The hands are going to help coordinate the movement And just like in the gait cycle, in the pattern that we walk, we rotate through the torso. So that elbow reach is helping shift your torso towards this lifting leg. The most common problem that people are going to have with this is they just don't have the mobility and the range of motion and the motor control to get down into this position. So you can do it in a reduced range of motion and in a shorter stance position rather than a big reaching back position. This is going to be pretty challenging for mobility and motor control, whereas if you're a little shorter and a little higher, you should still be able to get some glute and use that contraction to come up into the top position. Extend the hip, drive the hip forward. Feel your glute load as you come down and find your depth. What finding your depth means is finding a position where you can really feel that glute loaded. You can feel your foot stable on the ground. As you develop better stability, mobility, and motor control, you'll be able to come down deeper and you'll be able to lengthen the range of the back leg. The other typical problem that people are going to have is they will lose their foot contacts. So a wedge or a sock under the points of the foot that you're losing are going to help you be more stable and control at the top of this movement where we're extending the hip and standing nice and tall. And by now you're starting to see me use these wedges, and these are really, really powerful tools. We use them all the time. They are probably one of the best simple tools for building a healthy foot. In a healthy foot, the weight of your body flattens out the arch on every step. That is pronation of the foot. Then the foot returns to supination, a more high arch shape, as we go into the late phase of the gait cycle, when you're pushing off through your big toe. So in a healthy foot, your body weight will flatten the arch on every step, but that tension in the plantar fascia resists this. And when the big toe lifts and extends during push off, the plantar fascia winds tighter around that first metatarsal head, around this area, lifting the arch. So that's the windlass mechanism that is literally the spring in your step. That movement of the opening of the foot and then the returning to stiffness is really what drives your power forward. It's your big toe and your glute working together to get you forward in space. But when big toe extension is limited, if that's less than 60 degrees, that mechanism can break down, leading to foot dysfunction and compensations up the chain. It also just feels like your foot is like a stump hitting the ground and it doesn't have any spring. But the interesting thing about this is that you don't know what you don't feel, and until you reclaim that movement, you don't really understand how powerful the foot is and how much it can contribute to this ease and effortlessness in hiking. Can't tell you how many times I've heard that. And for these reasons, when we do our online assessments, this is one of the first things that we check. If the person can't extend the big toe to 60 degrees, we know that that's one of the biggest areas of low-hanging fruit that we can work on in order to see huge changes in the way that people move and feel. Big toe extension is also a hugely limiting factor for building strength, since it inhibits your ability to perform a decent lunge or a split squat. For anyone dealing with that issue, we start them on a steady diet of big toe mobilizations, using the hands, self-massage, we use the wedges as strength training tools, all whilst working on the same drills that we have everyone do to improve coordination and movement, not just in the foot and the hip, but the whole body. If that's something you're interested in, book an assessment through the first link in the description. But for now, here's one of the best movements that we use to start strengthening the big toe and extension. This is the floating heel balance. We're going to come into a bent knee. We're going to float the heel and we're going to grip the toes into the floor and hold an isometric for 1 minute. You can use balance or support. You can use trekking poles, a wall, whatever you like. But we're going to hold for 1 minute. Push your foot into the floor, grip your toes, and keep your knee bent and your heel floating. And from there, we hang on for dear life for a minute. So you might start to feel the intrinsic muscles of the foot. If you're gripping really hard, you're going to feel the flexors in your foot, the muscles that curl the toes. So we keep smashing the foot into the floor. We keep gripping the toes and we keep the knee where it is. We keep the heel where it is, and you might start to feel a foot to hip connection, meaning the outside of your glute, when you're on this side, your front leg, you might start to feel your glute contracting, the muscles around your hip contributing to keeping you in the position. You might feel some calf, you might feel the muscles around the ankle, but you're going to feel a lot of muscles in the foot. We're going to hold that isometric and build tension here. So very simple, smash the toes, keep the knee bent, balance if you need it with support, and build that tension and try and build this foot to hip connection. One small addition you can make to this, if you're having issues with your big toe or a medial arch that is not very active, elevating the big toe on a wedge and pushing through the big toe into the wedge can be very, very helpful here. If you want to know more about how and why we use the wedges, I've left a quick video and a few links in our school, which is our learning and teaching platform. In our school, I've built out a 7-day challenge where I've laid out all of these drills and more in a clear schedule with key workouts, as well as recommendations on sets and reps. So you can actually apply this stuff with some structure. And if you're interested in learning the principles that we work on, school is a great place to get started for that as well. I find that people are much more likely to apply the exercises when they understand why they're doing them. So in order to get buy-in for these drills that sometimes look a little bit silly or even look too basic, it's really helpful to understand exactly what we're trying to work on. And for a broad overview of these 5 moves, it's really about foot to hip connection. And that's what these 5 drills, as well as all of the other drills that we utilize in the Hike Flow method, are there to do. The Hike Flow method is my way of developing and understanding how the human body works. It's a training system that aims to cover all of the bases that someone would need to be able to hike for the rest of their life. It is a long-term movement project. It's a process of learning and developing and understanding rather than just a fitness program. We get you to film your exercises, send them back for a review. Often we'll do assessments, reassessments, and one-on-one calls where necessary to help you to understand the movement that is limited in your body. When I see the way people carry out a movement, I know that they're making the same mistakes that I was making 5, 10, 15 years ago, where I was purely focused on just getting the reps and getting the work done without focusing on the quality of the movement. So that's the level of attention to detail that we bring in the Hike Flow method. So the one thing that I want to make really clear with all of the movements that I've shared in this video, even though I've chosen them to be fairly simple and fairly basic, it's really about the form and the quality of the movement rather than how many sets and reps you did. This is not just about bashing out mindless sets and reps. We need to be focused and we need to bring our awareness and our mind into our body if we want to improve. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you found this helpful. I'll see you on the summit.